Alrighty guys, let's first start off with the way we're looking at our skirt. This is the front of our skirt, the right side, and there's our little straps that we created. If you didn't create straps, just make sure the front of your skirt is facing you, not for anything, just for this part of the tutorial, which is the measurement part. Alright, so let's get a nice close-up for you. Now let's say, for argument's sake, your skirt was 100 centimeters in width from around your waist, and that's 39.4, rough measurement there in inches. And let's say your length was 47 centimeters, or roughly 18.5 inches. These are rough measurements here. So we have our skirt. That's the front of it, where you see the straps there. They are the straps, yeah? All right, so this would be, right up the top here would be your waist, yeah? And then right flat bang in the middle, or maybe, you know, certain centimeters down, you will have your hip measurement. Now, you need to find out which one is your widest measurements. Now, ordinarily the hip would be wider than our waist, but sometimes some of us, like, you know, yours truly, may have a little bit of extra width around the waist, but I'm not saying anything, all right? So find out which is your widest measurement, and that's the measurement you're working on. I'm going to say, let's just say I'm working on 100 centimeters. So let's say we're working on 100 centimeters for our width, okay? And roughly 47 centimeters for our length, and these are your inches if you're interested, all right? So your length is easy to work out. The width is a tiny little bit different, all right? Once you grab your width measurement, this is what I want you to do. There's your width measurement, all right? Or whatever it is, 39.4. On top of that, I need you to add another 30 centimeters, all right? So that's 130 centimeters. Oh, I'm not really sure what that is in inches. I'll just pop it up here somewhere, right over there. And that's what that is in inches, all right? So that is the amount of your material that I want you to cut all the way in length. I want you to cut your, whatever it is, your 30 added up to, mine added up to 130. I want you to cut the length of your skirt by 130 centimeters, or those inches right there on the screen, right? Now, for your length, yes, we said it was going to be 47 centimeters. However, you need to allow yourself an inch right there for the hem, yeah? So there's an inch for the hem, or 2.5 centimeters, 2.5 centimeters, yeah? Again, these are rough measurements, so I'll write that out because I made a mess there, haven't I? You had one job, Mary. 1 centimeter, I'm sorry, let's try 1 inch, roughly, yep? Up the top, you need to add, I'll just do that, 5 centimeters. We'll say roughly 2 inches, give or take a little tiny bit, yeah? That's roughly 2 inches, all right? Oh, and by the way, this 130 is roughly 51.2 inches, roughly. Oh, it's too far down, inches, okay? This is just, these are rough measurements here, all right, guys? You probably need to look them up better yourself. So really, we have 47 down here, plus 2.5 plus 5, or in your case, your inches, yeah? 18.5 plus 1 plus 2, all right? But let's just do this. I'll total it, and then you can put the inches next to it. All right, so 47 plus 7.5 is, what is that? 54.5 centimeters. All right, so down this way, you've got, I hope that was right, 54.5 centimeters, 21.5 inches. Now, I hope I'm not confusing you with the inches, right? But I'm just doing mine 54.5 centimeters. That way, 54 point, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm just doing a rough job. 2, 4, 6, and 7. Like, we know this is not straight, right? Doesn't matter. We know that's not straight, but just pretend it's straight, yeah? All right, so it's 130 centimeters, or your whatever inches that was, 51.2 by 54.5 centimeters, or 21.5 down. All right, so you are going to need to take that much, it's really crooked, off there, and probably this much is going to be sewn under, because the only way you can get that stitch to work is to have some space there. All right, so now what we're going to do is start. You have cut out or measured and cut out your 130 by whatever it was, 54.5. Now don't look at mine, mine's all creased. I've made an absolute mess of it. I shoved it in a bag and look at it. It only actually had a line down here and 2 lines there, and I just made an absolute mess of it. But anyway, so what you do here, now I've actually done it differently on the other side. You can see some lines there. That was the professional dressmaker's way of doing it. Now let me just show you, so you know what I mean by professional. That was the complete dressmaker design way of doing it. And then I thought, this is going to confuse everyone, so let's just do a basic rectangle, and then later, if it's too loose, we'll take it in down the sides. I think that's the best way so that you don't get confused. I did actually put lines here, but you don't have to worry about that, because I'll just tell you when we're doing it what you need to do. So you've got both your pieces. You've got one piece of that rectangle, just one piece, not 2 pieces, just one piece of 130 by your 54 point whatever. Okay, fold it in half. Let me explain that again to you so you know what you're doing. Your material has been folded in half lengthwise. Yes, that's the middle of your skirt. This is the side seam, not middle. That's one side of your skirt, and this is the side seam, or the middle. Actually, you could use this as a back. You can put this in the back if you like. It doesn't matter. All that matters is you need to sew along this side, keeping the top edge open and keeping your bottom edge open. Just sew along the side. So what I want you to do is this. Now I'm going to be using a sewing machine, okay? But in your case, if you don't have a sewing machine, I will show you just quickly how you can sew by hand. Personally, this sort of thing on skirts and things, you're better off using some sort of sewing machine. However, it doesn't matter. All right, so grab your measuring tape, and I have allowed for a full inch, right? Or, no, that's too far away, let's try that. A full inch or 2.5 centimeters space, all right? So what you want to do is half that inch, half the 2.5, because I've allowed the full inch in one piece, right? So you're halving it. Half an inch, like that. It's a rough measurement. I've allowed for a lot more, but let's just put in half an inch, yeah? Half an inch, or even a little bit over half an inch will get you out of trouble, easy, yeah? So what I want you to do now is to pop your pins all the way down your full inch. Now, as you can see, I'm being lazy. I'm not measuring mine, but you know, it looks relatively straight, yeah? But there's so much space allowed for this side seam, so don't stress if you make it a little bit bigger. The only thing is, once you get here, it's going to be too wide down the bottom, and I'll explain that to you once we are ready to complete our skirt. Don't worry about that now, it's only going to confuse you. So pop your pins down all the way, half an inch away from your seam line, all the way down to the end, and I will meet you there in a moment. Now, we are going to be using our sewing machine to sew this edge up. However, if you do not have a sewing machine, let me just show you something real quickly. Grab yourself a sewing needle, thread it, and then double it. When I say thread it, double it, put the thread through, and then just even it out all the way through. All right, you've got your 2 threads. Do yourself a little knot here, and all you're doing is wrapping it around your finger, twisting, and just pulling it. Wrap, twist, pull. Do it about 3 or 4 times. I've only done it twice because I did 2 before, right? And then you should have your thread should be doubled. Yep, can you see that? All right, so for those of you who have a sewing machine and want to sew, just give me one moment so I can show everyone else how to do the hand sewing. Very simple, just pop your needle, sewing needle. And this is not a really good needle because I wasn't going to sew, into your piece, right where you're supposed to be sewing down, right there. If it helps, you can do it right. You can move your pin over here to help you out, but I'm not going to bother. And what it should do is just stick, the knot should get stuck there, all right? And then all you need to do is do little tiny, should have done it in a different color for you. Just do little tiny spaces like that. Pop it in there and pop it through. You can actually see it there. It's a little tiny space, probably the size of my little pinky there, pinky nail. Now what I want you to do is to bring your needle back through where you first started sewing. So find that first space, you can just move it at the back, do that, you bring it through, and you're done, all right? Now instead of going into that space, you're going to go that little bit further out. Again, not too much, just a little bit. Oops. Whoops, what have I done there? That's it. I'm going to pull the thread. Okay, there. Now what you're going to do, see that little thread where you first, see that one right there? You're going to go back into that from the back. So you're filling up the gap that you're making. You're making a big gap there and you're filling it up. Then you're going to do the same. Let's take that little needle out there. Pin, let's try pin, leave a space, big space like that, and away you go. And that's that. Going back into, oh, that's a little bit crooked, guys, don't do it as crooked as me. Going back into that stitch there, remember that one? We go 2 steps forward, 1 step back, if that helps. That's the way I like to remember it. I've pulled the thread, as you do, as you do. All right, there we go. All right, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You're going to do that all the way down until you get to that section there, and then I'll show you how to cast off, all right? In the meantime, for the rest of us, we are going to start using the sewing machine for ours, all right? And let's grab the sewing machine. Alrighty guys, so here we are with our sewing machine. It's a little bit awkward here. I've got the frame sitting right under my arm, so it's a little awkward. Facing your very bottom pin that you've made right there, right under the sewing needle, all right? Drop your foot, take out that sewing pin, the first one, all right? You can pop your needle in if you like. It stops you, stops it from moving around, okay? And you can just start by doing a forward and backward stitch. And I'm not sure how you do that on your sewing machines, but this is the way we do it on ours. And I'll pop that on slow motion in the machine for you. So let's try that. We're going forward a little bit. I'm going to find the pedal, sorry guys. We're going forward a bit. So that's really slow motion, isn't it? We're stopping and we're going back. Now all this is doing is tightening up your work so it doesn't come undone. And then you just keep going forward a little bit. I'm just doing it on slow because it's really noisy when I go fast, and I'll show you fast. Take out your next needle. So this is a medium fast. This is not a real fast. So off we go. Okay, so it's a little bit loud, but not too loud. I'm going to lift the needle a little bit. Now, if I wanted to go fast, this is where the loud comes in. You can remove the next pin if you want. I would get a little closer. I'm just used to sewing, so I'm not worried about it. And off we go. See how noisy that is? Yeah. So I'm going to pop this on silent. And what I want you to do is continue to go all the way along your row. Get to the very last pin. Don't remove it, and I'll meet you there in a moment. And off we go. Alrighty guys, now I slowed that down towards the end. I had some trouble with my machine. I'm just going to check my work. It's okay. I'm still having trouble with it. It's not a very good machine. It's really old, right? But there you go. Now we're on our last pin. Now if you want, I don't know if you can see this. Let's bring it out a little bit. You can pop another pin just before it, right, just before that pin, just there, and then take out your pin. Now I popped that in crooked for starters, and good on you, Mare. Pop the other pin there, and that'll give you a little bit more space to work with until you get down to that pin. So continue to go, stop at the pin. You're going to do the same thing you did before going forward. So you go forward, stop fairly close. I'm going to raise that needle, and then go backwards a little bit, and then back forward again and stop. Now I've gone too far for starters, so it's going to knot. Sorry about the frame, guys. I'm working around the frame. All right, so that's your side seam done. All right, for those of you who use the sewing machine, what I need you to do now, I mean, that's our sewing all along there. My sewing machine is really playing up. I might need a new sewing machine. All right, what I want you to do, not your problem, guys, is cut the ends of your work. Okay, because your sewing machine went forward and backward, that actually made the knot for you. So this is not coming undone, yeah? So cut the ends of both sides. Okay, and now with those of you who have your sewing needle and have done it with a sewing needle, this is what I want you to do. I'm going to take this undone, but I just want to show you. All right, let's say this is your last stitch there. Yeah, what I want you to do is to go back into your last stitch like that, yes, and grab that little loop, wrap it around once and twice, not too tight, and then just pull that stitch through. You're going to do it again, but only in a little small section, not a big piece like you did, not a big stretch there. Do the same, put it in there. Get your front one, wrap it around twice, pull it through. Now, if you wanted to, you could actually pull it through the other side and did the knot on the other side. So it doesn't matter either way. I'm going to cut mine because I don't want to be knotted there. All right, so that's that. This part of the tutorial, you will actually all need your sewing needle. Now, I know sewing machines do this part of the tutorial, but for me, I would like to use the hand part for this part. All right, which I'll thread my needle off air in a minute. But for now, remember how we said, let's grab our book again. Remember how I said to you to give yourself 5 centimeters down up this way, or 2 inches. What you need to do now is turn your work inside out. So turn this piece inside out, which is actually the right side. All right, now pick one of the edges, it doesn't matter which one, this one or the one down the bottom, to be the top edge because they're both the same. Grab your measuring tape. From the top of your piece, where the space is, this is now going to be the top of your skirt, okay? So pick the side that's going to be the top of your skirt. Grab your pencil. See, I've already done mine. 5 centimeters or 2 inches. I've marked it. And I've marked it all the way across my piece. Then I got a ruler and I ruled the line all the way across. So I know that that is how far, that's where my skirt hip, let's try waist, sorry. That's where my skirt waist should be. Because it's 5 centimeters or 2 inches, it's easier for this part to halve it. So go 2.5 or whatever that is, 1 inch, off the top, all right? And do that all the way across, 2.5, 1 inch, whatever it is, 2.5, 1 inch, yeah? And do that and draw that line. Well, that's not a very straight line, but anyway, I'm no genius, I can't do that. But yeah, and draw that line. So what you now have, once you're done, is 2 lines from the top. You have 1 there and 1 there, all the way around your skirt. Do that now and I'll meet you back here in a moment. Alrighty guys, what you should have is, it's a bit hard to see mine, but there they are, 2 lines, okay? Now what we're going to do is turn our work inside again. Turn your work back the other way. So turning it inside out or inside, whatever you want to call it, the other way one more time. It is a little bit of messing around, but once you get that top bit done, the rest is easy. Well, the rest is easy. Okay, so you've turned it in that way, right? So at this stage, your lines are on the inside. Let's get a close up. Your lines are on the inside of your work. So all you're doing is folding your work at that first line, all right? And then grabbing needles. Grab your needles, your little button needles. They're so cute. I don't know how they call them flowers. Look like buttons to me, but anyway. All right, so grab your little needles and pop it in anywhere you like for this part. Anywhere, it doesn't matter. But make sure your line is straight. So your line should be up the top, yeah? Like so. All right, so what I want you to do is do that and put them all in the round. Get back to here at this pink needle right here, and I will meet you there in a moment. Alrighty guys, here I am at the end of my row. So I've got pins everywhere, and that's the pink one, the first one, and here's a yellow one. Yeah. So now your job is to sew along here. Now you can do that any way you like. Hand sewers, just pop a needle in anywhere and just start sewing. And it doesn't need to be fancy sewing. This can just be nice rough sewing. Okay, you can have big stitches in between, big wide stitches, it doesn't matter, because we're going to fold it over one more time, and that's the important sewing. All right, so go ahead, sew along here, hand sewers and sewing machine sewers. I'm not going to show you how to do that. Just sew along here the same way we did our side seams, and then meet me back here once you're done. Alrighty guys, what you should have is that. Let me get a close up. It should be all sewn across here. Now it didn't even matter if that sewing was a little bit crooked, as long as you stayed along the line there. Now, you would, by the way, you would have it like that. It would be sewn over that way, all right? So you should see no line there now. You should just see your normal sewing line and not all of this, yeah? All right, so now what we're going to do is do exactly the same. Fold it over, and that will be your very last line. But it's going to be different. We're not going to use the sewing machine for this part, all right? So fold it over for the last line. Find your last line, which is right there. That is your hip line. So that's the line that you have to make sure is, I don't know what that is. That's my sewing needle. Straight. All right, so don't stress too much. My sewing machine is really bad. Look at that. It's disgusting. Shh, don't tell them. They won't see it. All right, so just do that. Pop your pins all the way across and get to this side right here, and I will meet you here in a moment. Alrighty guys, what you should have is that all the way around, yes? What I would like for you to do now is this part is going to be done by hand sewing. Now you can do this part by sewing machine if you like. The actual name for it is called tacking. Now this kind of tacking, what it does is you sew, hand sew or sewing machine, very wide stitches, and I'll show you that in a minute, across the top, and you hand sew or sewing machine stitches, very wide stitches, along the bottom in a similar manner, which I'll explain to you later as well. You do that all the way around. When you're finished, you pull both those threads, and what it does is it kind of puckers everything up so that it's easy for you to attach to your skirt, and you can, lay it out properly later. We'll talk about that when that time comes. What I want you to do is grab a really long piece of thread, really long piece of thread, not extremely long piece. Don't double it, because I have doubled it, but only because I don't want to leave it too long. And don't knot it. Look how long mine is. Look how long that is, right? Because that's got to go all the way around your skirt. So starting from the top, and let me show you how close we can get. You're going to have one thread going across here and one thread going across here. So just pop your needle in. Give a really big, wide space between it. I don't know, thumb distance, whatever that is for you. You don't really want to be too fussy for, inches and centimetres. Just a big, long space. pull your thread through, but not all the way, because remember, we don't have a knot. We don't want a knot on our thread, and we want our tail to be long enough, like, so we can pull it. The next step after this, when we do our second row, if your thread is not strong enough, that may break. So if you feel the need to double your thread because your thread is relatively weak, like mine is, I won't pull it so tight, then it may break, and then you have to do the whole row over again, because we're going to be pulling these threads, and this is just going to go like that. You can see it doing it already, okay? So just be wary of that. So if you wanted to double your thread, you can. All right, now we've gone through like that. Once again, we're going to leave a really big gap that way, and then a really big gap that way, okay? And pull it through. Again, making sure you are not pulling it all the way through, because we need that tail end to pull. I find that a bit short. I'm going to make it a little bit longer. We need that at the end, okay? Doesn't have to be too long. I'm being fussy. Let's keep going. Once again, nice big space and a nice big space. Oh, I'm out of frame, sorry. A nice big space opposite there and a nice big space there. Now, as you can see, I'm not completely close to the edge. I've got quite a bit of gapping there. All right. So that's it. This is your job, okay, to go all the way through your piece. If it doesn't make it, you actually have to do it again. You need one thread to go all the way around. So make sure it's very long. See how much I had to pull through? Make sure it's very long. All right. And as you're going, just take out your pins. All right. So what I want you to do is continue in that manner. Big spaces. Get to this sewing needle right. I'm sorry. Let's try pin. Get to this pin right here. Don't jump into that stitch. Just get here. Give yourself a big gap in between. All right. So go ahead and do that now, and I'll meet you back there in a moment. Alrighty, guys. This is where I first started, and this is where I've ended off. Now I've taken my needle out only because I wanted to rethread the other thread, but just give yourself a long tail here and give it a cut. All right. Now your job is to do that all over again. What they're saying, but not in the same spot. Well, yes, the same distance between each stitch, but not up the top. You're going to find another spot right down the bottom where that thread started, and you're just going to pop your needle in and bring it out through to the other side, right where your thread came out. Oops, that's a little crooked. That's very crooked. Hello, Mary. Get this right, woman. Okay, so bring it out right there. Okay, pull it through. Once again, you are making sure you're leaving a long tail here to work with. Now, where's my tail? Which is there. I'll bring that out a little bit. And there's my tail. Now, that's a long one. This one here is not so long. So I'm going to pull it out a bit. Where are we here? Long tails. Okay, so these two tails right here. Yes. Actually, they're exactly the same. Little tiny millimeter different there. So make sure you have your two tails here. And then grab your sewing needle again. And I've just pulled my tail. Can you believe it? Don't pull your tail. Start again. Go to the next stitch, which was right there. Pop your needle in and come out right at the very next, not so crooked again, which is there. So you're coming out right at the very next stitch, just above. This is way too low. No, it doesn't have to be that low. In fact, it's probably better off being a little closer to it. But I started off far away, so I'm going to bring mine far away. All right, so that's what you're going to do in the round. Okay, being careful not to break your thread like I did. Oh, you didn't see that because it was off air. I broke my thread twice just for fun. And I had to start again. So being careful not to break your thread. Make sure you're leaving two tails here in the beginning and leaving two tails at the end, and we'll talk about that later. All right, so just keep following exactly what you did up there, down there, up there, down there. Go all the way around, and I will meet you back here. Let's pop a needle here in between our threads. right there. All right, there's the start of this thread and that's the end of that thread. Okay, so I'll meet you back right here. Yours should land right there. All right, I'll meet you back here once you're done. Alrighty guys, that's what you should have now at the end of this row. You should have 2 threads there and 2 threads there. Just take out that needle, you don't need it there anymore. What I meant by puckering, okay, here's the part where you need your crochet skirt. So grab your crochet piece, turn it inside out. Okay, so now that's now inside out. Your little tails are on the inside and your skirt is inside out. Grab your lining and put it over your skirt. All right, sorry about that, guys. I did that off air because it was driving me nuts. Now you still have your skirt inside out. Your right side is on the in and this is the wrong side of your skirt. All right, now it's up to you how you want to, pop your skirt, in the middle, the side doesn't matter. This is the middle of my front, so I'm just popping this little seam line in the middle of what I feel is the back. There's no right or wrong way there, yeah? So what I want you to do is just grab one needle for now. I'm sorry, let's try one pin. You think I can get the jargon right, do you? No. And just pop it downwards. Maybe not in a bit of thread, just away from the thread, but through all thicknesses, through your, crochet. All right, so don't do what I do. Don't, pin yourself. This happens in every tutorial when I use pins. I had one job. Here we go. Now, I've put a pin there just to keep this in place. But see our little 2 threads here. Let's try 4. 2 on one side and 2 on the other. If you now give those 2 threads a tug on one side, firstly, this is what's going to happen. Ready? Give it a tug and that's going to happen. And just pull some of it over like that. And just keep pulling. Yes? Like that. Keep pulling. And get to a little bit like that. Hold it there. Go to the other side and do exactly the same. Give it a tug. You can see it puckering up as we speak, yeah? What you want to do is keep doing that all the way through until your piece, your skirt and your piece are even, right? Remember, we have about 30 centimeters. Don't make all the puckering in one spot. When you get to the width you need, just give it a bit of a tug over this way and it'll move it along to the next section. All right, just go ahead and play with that and I'll show you what mine looks like in a moment, okay? Go ahead and do all your puckering. Make sure you've got one needle right in the middle and we'll see how we go. And I'll meet you back here in a moment. Alrighty guys, and that's what I have now, okay? So my puckering should be even all the way across. It's not perfect, yeah? And we're going to do that perfect part right now. This is where you grab a couple of needles and you pop them, give them some distance apart. Doesn't matter, you've already got one there. Give them another distance apart. You're going to sew it onto, when you start sewing, you're going to sew it from there, the top of this lining, right to the top of our stitch. But we might actually sew it into the bottom of the single crochet because I think that might pucker a little bit and pull and tug and everything else. So drop it a little bit. Not even in frame. There you go. All right. So go to your next section and do exactly the same. Drop it a little bit. And I'll show you mine at the end. And you can see if the puckering is too much on one section and not enough on the other. All right. So flip it. Just keep going and doing that. And I'll meet you back here once you're done. Alrighty, guys. What you should have is that. It should look like that. All right, should be a little bit loose. We'll work that out later, that part. But for now, that's what you should have. All right, it should be kind of, adjusted on that. Okay, you might find there are parts of it that are a little bit more puckered than others. Just adjust it, readjust it. And again, this doesn't have to be perfect as long as you've got some space for your crochet skirt, because crochet stretches, yeah, your crochet skirt to stretch. So just be wary of that. Now I have already threaded my needle off air, and what I did was I put a large thread in there and I doubled it this time, and I did a few little knots, and they are just, all you're doing is popping them around your finger and twisting and then pulling, and they're knots. So around your finger, twisting, pulling, and that's what you're getting. That's the dressmaker's way of doing knots. If you're worried about it, just tie it in a couple of knots. Maybe you can do a few loops here. Look what I've done. Seriously? Oh my gosh, I've done it twice. Seriously? All right, so what we're going to do now, and this is the part that's going to take you a long time. See, that's too low, too high. I need to drop that a little bit. Okay, so just being wary, and you know, you can drop that a bit as you go on along. When we're sewing from here to there, I would sew right into your single crochet. Now, I'll explain that to you in a minute. Let's get real close. To start with, just pop your needle on the inside of your lining. All right, so what's going to happen is the knot will stay in there and you won't see it at the end. All right, so just pop it inside your lining without it getting caught on anything, which it already has. You just be wary, guys. It's going to get caught on things. That's what's going to happen with me, I'm sure of it. All right, just take that needle out, your first one, and with this part, you're going to bring your needle right up to the tip of your lining, but you know, make sure you've got some little bit of a space there, yeah? You don't want it too close to the top or it'll come undone. So do that, and then you are popping your needle through your single crochet. Now it doesn't even matter if you go through, and I'll tell you why, because if you're using the cream, I'm going to do that so you can see what I mean. If you're using the cream, you won't see it, all right? You can go through if you like, there, and then straight through to the opposite side. It's a bit hard for me because I've got my little seam line there, to the opposite side, making sure that doesn't happen. What? Oh, don't you love it? Don't you love it? All right, so that's it. Oh, no, it's not, because we've got more knots here. Hello. Look at this. Look at this. I tell you, I'm doing well. All right, so that's that. Now make sure you are tightening up your thread a little bit. So that's too high again. I'm going to bring it down a bit, and that's my pucker. I've lost a bit of my pucker, but that's all right. And then make it up as you go along. All right, so it's too high up. Just be wary, that's far too high. You don't want your lining showing up the top. So bring it down a little bit and then just pop it straight through. Or you can do what I was going to do, where you pop it through and then go through the single crochet. Now I'm just going to go straight through, to be honest with you. I reckon it'll be all right. You won't be able to see it. Seriously, you won't be able to see it. All right, now it doesn't matter if you run out of thread for this. Oh, this is the part where you do need to do that 1 step forward and 2 steps back, or in my case, it's 1 step back and 2 steps forward. So you go back into the first stitch that you did, like that. And then you pass that stitch that you just did and go into a very next stitch. 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Now, if you don't want to do this, you can use your sewing machine to do this. Entirely up to you. I'm going to do this part by hand, only because I find it really difficult with all these little puckers to run under the sewing machine. All right, so off you go and continue that 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Let me take that pin out, and there we go. All right, so continue in that manner. I haven't pulled my loops through there properly. Continue in that manner all the way around. Get to this very last pin right here, the yellow one in my case, and we will talk about how we're going to close everything up. All right, continue in that manner all the way through, and I will meet you here once you're done. Alrighty guys, here I am at the end of the row. Now I had to change my thread a gazillion times, I tell you. I'm going to take this pin out for starters because it kept annoying me. Alright, so what I've got left is that little tiny space, okay? So what we're going to do is just continue along the way. Alright. like so. Just making sure. I had to keep checking. The threads kept getting caught up and I had to keep checking. It was getting stuck on the pins. Oh, it was a mess. I hope you weren't having as much trouble as I did. I had a lot of trouble. But don't tell the subscribers. They didn't see it, so don't tell them. Okay, well, I'm nearly there. In fact, I think I am there, but I'm just going to go over where I was. Oh, I'm not even in frame. Hello, wake up, Mary. So all I'm doing is just going backward and forward as close as I can to the end. Now, the end is done already, but I just want to make sure, reinforce it to make sure nothing comes undone. Now, what you're going to do is just find a space. Now, I picked up the wrong needle this time because I had to keep changing my thread. It kept breaking on me. It's a terrible thread. It's just old. I've had it for like 100 years. Well, maybe not that much, but a long time. So just pop your needle in, wrap your needle around a couple of times, pull it through. Okay? I'm going to go in again. Come back through the other way, and guess what? I'm going to do that process again. Pop my needle in, wrap the yarn around a couple of times, pull the loop through, and then you're done. Grab your scissors. If I can find them, here we go. And we're done. We won't need that sewing needle again, unless you're going to do the hem by sewing. Before we go on, remember our two, let's say 4 threads here. Remember those? Let's get a nice close-up for you. 4 threads. If you want, just give them a big tug. And they might even break like you just heard mine. And they'll come undone. Okay, that's thread 1 gone. Get the other side. Oh, that's going to be difficult, that side. I might have actually sewn over it, but it doesn't matter. So take it out. Get them out. You don't need them there anymore. I'm sorry, that's far too close now. You get a big visual of my hand. Far too close. All right, so take those threads out. I don't know where they are. I don't want to pull the wrong thread. But take them all out. I'll take mine out after if there's any more in there. So I'm not going to worry too much about it. Can do that later. But the next step you need to do, there are 2 final steps to do. 1, just grab your skirt. All right. Pop your hands in your skirt from the top down to the bottom. At the bottom, just give your skirt a big stretch. If you find that the bottom part of your skirt is really, really loose, see that can be a little bit loose. I've drawn a line there. I was going to do it, but I'm not going to now. I think it's okay. Literally get your side seam again. Let's have a look close up for you. And just from your hip downwards, just take a little bit more in. If you want to. I think once we do the hem, it will be okay. We won't need to take it in as much. Now we're going to start with the hem. I call this 2 steps when really we're only doing 1 because this would have been a second step and I've decided I'm not going to do mine. I've decided to leave mine the way it is, okay? I did try it on. It was really loose and I was a bit worried about whether it was going to look a bit bulky under the skirt. I'm not too worried about it. If it does, I'll take mine undone and do it again, but I'm not going to at this stage. I'm literally just going to start our hem. All right, so let's start our hem. If you like, you can probably just pop your skirt, I don't know, inside. You can probably just pop it like that for now, just pulling it through, because we're going to work on our hem. Now, you need to grab your measuring tape, a whole inch or 2 centimetres, 2.5 centimetres is there. Mark it, right? 1/2 inch or 1.5 centimetres is there. Yep. So what you want to do is bring that over to that. You're doing your line like you did before. Let's start this again. Sorry, I'm not really explaining this well. You do that line all the way through, like this, 2.5. I'm sorry, let's try 2. No, I was right the first time. 2.5 or 1 inch. 2.5 or 1 inch there. This is roughly, like if you look carefully at your 2.5, it's not really exactly 1 inch, is it? It's kind of a little bit off, but don't worry about it, yeah? Don't worry about it. So 1/2 inch is there. You grab your ruler. I don't have a ruler on me. I'll just use a measuring tape. I wonder if it'll work. Oh, it's not too bad. And you rule your lines like we did on the waist. Yeah? So you're ruling 2 lines. Oh, that didn't work. I went right off there. But doesn't matter. You can do it yourself. You're good at this, right? So rule your lines. Make it nice and straight. Your first hem. Now this is the side where you have your side seam. Okay? In normal dressmaking, I would have done that. But I'm not going to. I'm going to leave it like that. Okay? You fold it to the first line like that. Add your pins, sew over it. When that's sewn over, you fold it over to the next line, add your pins, and you sew again. All right? So your job now is to do just that. Fold it to the first line for me, and then go ahead and pin your piece. And then meet me back here, and we will sew the first seam together. All right? Go ahead and add your pins, and I'll meet you at the sewing machine in a moment. Alrighty guys, here we are, and what I'm going to do is just pop my needle, my sewing needle. Oh, I'm going to pop it on top of that. Get rid of that pin there. I'm just going to pop it on top of stitching, yeah? And you can stitch on top of the material, and you just keep your material along your foot. That's called a foot, all right? And all you're doing is, let me just bring that down in a minute. Remember how we went backward and forward when we first did it? I've lost my pedal. All right, so we go forward, just slowly. This is on the slow section when I do the forward and back. Now let's go back. You don't need to, you can do it fast if you like. I do it slow so it can go straight. She says as she forgets to straighten it. You like that? All right, so that's that. And we're good to go. We are now good to go. So let's pop it, let's lift the needle a little bit. Always lift the needle when you're mucking around with your gauges and things on the machine. Yep. You don't need to. It just stops any issues from happening, breakages of your needle. Okay. So then all you're going to do is just sew along there. That's it. Keeping your work close to that little foot there. Okay. And that's it. That's all you need to do. All right. So what I'm going to do is pop this on fast, and then yours will be just some music in the background, but you can sit here and watch me go through this. Alrighty guys, I am relatively close to the edge. The edge is about there. Right, that's where our thread is, the starting thread. So let's finish off. When you get to your starting thread, what are you going to do? You're going to go back. It's a little faster than before, yeah? And back forward again. All right? My thread's just cut. Hopefully, oh good, it cut right at the end. Perfect. I don't know what happened there, but there you go. It's done. And it's there. All right? So that's our first step. Let's try that again. Our first hem. Let's move the machine for a minute. And what I want you to do now, I don't know if you can see this part, is just fold it over one more time and pin it again and do exactly the same thing. And all you're doing, let's get up and show you so you know what you're doing. All you're doing is, first you need to cut these little ends right here, but all you're doing is folding your work one more time, like that. Okay, all you did there is you got rid of a lot of this little frayed edge you see here. So you just fold it one more time, like that. Pop your pins in, and then you can meet me back here. Now yours truly, so that you know, I'm going to be popping my pins on the other side because my sewing machine is playing up, and I'm finding the top stitching is looking nice, so that'll be my top stitch right there, and the bottom stitching is not looking so nice. So I'm going to be doing my pins this way and top stitching on that side of the work. All right, so go ahead and do that, and I shall meet you back here to get ready for sewing this part together as well. All right, go ahead and do that now, and I'll meet you back here in a moment. Alrighty guys, what you should have is a whole row of pins put across like so, and guess what you're going to do? Exactly the same thing that you just did. Now I did mine, as I said, on this side. It does for me, with my sewing machine being as, you know, old as it is, it does look a lot better having my top stitch on the top, which is the way it should be, and underneath having the bottom stitch. All right, but don't stress too much about it. That's just me being fussy. Now what we're going to do is what we did before, is start sewing a little bit and then reversing, which I forgot to take the needle out, but it doesn't matter, going forward again. All right, so that's that. Now your job is to, guess what? Just keep going. Let's put this on fast and nice and silent for you. Alrighty guys, how did you go? Yeah, I am almost there. And we're going to stop and we're going to reverse back. And forward again. And we're done. Let's pull that out. Give our work a cut right there. Oh, it didn't break this time, lucky. And just cutting all threads up the top and those underneath threads as well. And actually you can see what I mean by my machine playing up. It kind of gets all caught up under here. So it goes to show you that it's a thread problem. It might be a needle problem. I might need to replace the needle, I'm not sure. But it's okay, it worked. To the extent that I'd like to say it's finished. What I want you to do is to turn your work back in the right way, just for now, Turn it back in the right, hang on, which way is the right way now? Oh, it goes in, doesn't go over, it goes in. So push your lining in and make sure that your lining is shorter than your skirt. All right, we're gonna show you that now.